Good morning. I want to get started here and welcome you all to the 4th annual Southern California Trial Lawyers Conference, hosted by Pepperdine Law. We're excited to have you all here. I know people are going to be coming in and out, visiting with our vendors, and doing various things, but I want to get us started off close to on time, so I'm going to get us going here. Just a couple things administratively that I just want to make sure you're all aware of. Inside of your handy-dandy brochure here, you have an itinerary for the day, so you can see all the speakers and you can see the lunch times and things of that nature. I'll go over that briefly after I introduce the dean here in a moment. But I would like to encourage you, and I'd like to start off by encouraging you to visit our vendors when you get a chance. This event does raise money for our trial teams, and we love to put it on every year. We're hoping to make future trial lawyers and get people excited about that opportunity or that possible career path. We're about half lawyers and half students here today. And so far, through our sponsorships and ticket sales, we've raised $126,000, so we're really excited about that. Our trial teams, yeah. And you can see all our specific sponsors on the back of this, but you know, our trial teams travel all over the country in various competitions, so it's needed, it's appreciated, and I think it's something that does a lot of good for I know it's something that does a lot of good for our students here. I want to introduce to you the dean of the Pepperdine Law School. I've had the opportunity to introduce the dean a couple times over the last year and a half, or I guess it's been close to 19 months now. Paul Karen. He's a dean who many would say is the right man at the right time for this particular point in Pepperdine's history. He's the first Pepperdine Law dean who is a nationally renowned scholar. He's written over 50 books and law review articles on tax law and has been named one of the 100 most influential people in tax and accounting for the past 13 years. In addition, Paul is nationally recognized in law school circles and has been named the 3rd most influential person in legal education the past 2 years in a survey of law school deans and professors. His blog, the Tax Prof Law blog, is the most popular blog on the internet on those topics and attracted 14 million page views last year. But most importantly, Paul deeply loves Pepperdine, our mission, our students, and what we do here. So please join me in welcoming Dean Paul Karen.
I love it when he does that. I am delighted to welcome all of you to Pepperdine Law School, and I'm especially excited to be here with you to hear from some of the nation's very best trial lawyers. As everyone in this room knows, trial lawyers occupy a unique and special role in the legal profession. Clarence Darrow said, "The only real lawyers are trial lawyers." And I'm a tax lawyer, so I'm not sure about that quote, but they are real lawyers. I want to share with you some words from America's first trial lawyer, someone who I have developed an unhealthy obsession with since I first saw Hamilton in 2016. I am such a fanboy of Hamilton that since I've become dean, I have attempted to change the law school's logo, so far without success. So here's a short clip from Alexander Hamilton, trial lawyer. All right. I wanted to wrap that, but my wife said no. I think we can draw 2 lessons about trial lawyers from Alexander Hamilton. First, the title of the song is Nonstop, and I think that captures the work ethic required to be a great trial lawyer. The song says that Hamilton writes and fights like he's running out of time. Secondly, Aaron Burr sings 3 times, "Why do you assume that you're the smartest in the room?" That's because he is, and trial lawyers here today often are the smartest in the room. I learned that firsthand when I was a young tax lawyer at a big law firm, and most of our work involved planning work, but occasionally we had some tax controversy work. And the way that our firm handled controversies was that tax lawyers had to partner with the trial lawyers in the firm. And at first I couldn't understand why, but then as I worked with trial lawyers on several cases, I was amazed at how they were able to combine their expertise in the mechanics and the art of trial work at the same time, sort of mastering very complicated tax issues. And so they often were the smartest in the room, especially when I was in the room. When I became a tax professor, one of my projects was I decided to do a book on the 10 most important cases in tax law. And that turned into a book, and it turned into a series of books on 35 areas of law. One of them is Trial Stories, and it's available on Amazon and fine bookstores everywhere. And a fun fact, that book highlights what the editors feel are the 10 most significant trials in our country's history. One of them is Aaron Burr's trial for treason. Finally, I want to brag about the emphasis that Ben mentioned here at Pepperdine Law on training trial lawyers. Professor Harry Caldwell has supervised for many years Pepperdine's trial teams and trial advocacy program. And those teams have done extraordinarily well in local, regional, and national competition. That is reflected in a couple of rankings that are done on law schools every year. First, on the practical training that law schools provide, Pepperdine is ranked 8th out of 200 law schools, and also on moot court programs, Pepperdine is ranked 29th out of those 200 law schools. In this room today, we have several of our extraordinarily talented and successful alums who are among the best trial lawyers in the country. I'm excited to be with you here today, and I welcome you to the 4th Annual Southern California Trial Lawyers Conference. Based on the first 3 conferences, I fully expect us all to have a great day. Indeed, I hope you will return next year for the 5th Annual Conference. I want to turn it back over to Ben, and he'll run through some of the program today. Thank you all.
So I'm going to introduce our first panel, and we'll get right into it. We've set up this sort of courtroom, quasi-courtroom, because we're going to kick off with a voir dire panel. And I'll take you through that itinerary real quick. You'll see this panel goes from 8:45 and ends at 10. And we'll have a break after that. We'll get rearranged so we can go into some other panels throughout the day, which, again, you can find in your itinerary. But this panel is going to be overseen by Judge James DeCesar. And I want to tell you a little bit about Judge DeCesar. His judicial philosophy is one of mutual respect and courtesy. He's enjoyed facilitating resolution in the pursuit of justice for 46 years in the law. Judge DeCesar brings to the bench a sense of fairness and passion for justice. He's the recipient of numerous awards and honors, including the Orange County Bar Association Franklin G. West Award, the highest honor of the OCBA, State Bar of California Wiley W. Manuel Award for pro bono legal services, American Board of Trial Advocates, Orange County Chapter George Francis Judicial Civility Award, Orange County Trial Lawyers Judge Oliver Award for Judicial Integrity, the Lex Romana Lifetime Achievement Award, and the Pepperdine Preceptor of the Year Award. As a longtime member of the Orange County Trial Lawyers Association, he served on its board of directors as editor of the OCTLA newsletter, and in 1988 as its president. In 2000, Judge DeCesar was named OCTLA Attorney of the Year. He's committed to legal education as a frequent speaker on legal subjects and as a mentor judge to law students. Judge DeCesar has been recently named as the supervising judge for the civil panel in Orange County Supreme Court. Judge DeCesar counts among his blessings his loving wife of nearly 50 years, Donna, 4 children, 9 grandchildren, numerous friends and colleagues. And he is also a graduate of the Pepperdine University School of Law class of 1973. The first day class at Pepperdine School of Law, first ever, was in 1970, and Judge DeCesar was part of that. So he's been around Pepperdine a little while. And we're honored to have him today. Please welcome Judge James DeCesar. Judge, you can come on and Claire Plotkin. Claire is a rising star in the field of trial consulting, working at Your Next Jury. Claire is an expert at giving advice and feedback that helps lawyers understand a juror's point of view and is a leading voice in the field of jury decision-making, psychology, and persuasion. She has helped shape the outcome of hundreds of trials throughout California. As a jury consultant, Claire has helped lawyers win 7- and 8-figure verdicts in employment, personal injury, product liability, sexual assault, wrongful death, and business cases. She helps her clients win trials and become better trial lawyers by facilitating mock trials, developing themes, and preparing witnesses. And I've recently learned that she once picked a jury the day she went into labor with her second child, so she's not someone to mess with. Please welcome Claire Plotkin. Tom Fair will also be joining this panel. He's a trial lawyer with the Simon Law Group. Last year, he obtained over $38 million in verdicts alone as lead counsel. He's tried 40 cases in the last 7 years and was named 2018 CAALA's Rising Star, 2017 OCTLA Young Gun, and 2016's CAOC Street Fighter of the Year for his success as a trial lawyer in representing injured people. He has an unrelenting passion for helping people, and his practice focuses on all aspects of personal injury and product liability from start to finish. During his free time, he volunteers in the community through the Los Angeles Trial Lawyers charity, and he is a 2010 graduate and was a classmate of mine at Pepperdine School of Law, and it's unbelievable to see the passion and success that he's brought and the addition that he's brought to the profession of plaintiff's trial work. Please welcome Tom Fair. Bob Simon, some of you have heard this name before. Bob is a good friend of Pepperdine. He's a 2005 graduate from Pepperdine, a co-founder of the Simon Law Group, where he acts as the primary trial attorney. He founded the firm with his twin brother in 2010. Since then, the firm has grown from a couple of people to a trial firm of over 20 lawyers, and he's widely recognized throughout the state and the country as a premier trial law firm. He has dedicated his entire career to fighting for injured people. Bob has received numerous awards for notable verdicts up and down the coast. Trial Lawyer of the Year is voted by other trial lawyers for the County of San Diego, Orange County, County of Los Angeles, and the state of California. This past year, he was voted top 40 under 40 by the Daily Journal. He's a board member of several consumer advocate groups. Bob spends a lot of time giving back to the community and helping teach other trial lawyers the craft of fighting for those in need. He's the keynote speaker for several seminars each year and is frequently published in various trial lawyer magazines. Since 2012, Bob has tried over 40 cases to verdict as lead, winning them all with verdicts totaling over $200 million. So Bob asked me to add this in here last night. He said, well, he did have his first loss ever last summer, but it was overturned because, as he said, he got cheated. He looks forward to the rematch. This week, Bob is celebrating his 39th birthday, so we thought we'd go ahead and honor him a little bit. He's a very good friend. He's sponsored this conference at $25,000, which is it's just an amazing gift for these students. If you know Bob, you know he has like a 10-foot statue of the Hulk in his office and loves Marvel. So my assistant and I, Linda Johnson, the wonderful Linda Johnson, came up with this creative idea to get him a Marvel birthday cake today. So Linda, if you could parade the cake. organized. I'm so excited about this thing. You got to eat it all right now. We're not going to, no. Oh, we got to sing? Oh.
Hey, we gotta sing.
All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you.
Is this where we do the cake smash and eat it for each other? Right?
I like to call this Bob's farewell tour as top 40 under 40. So. Did Dick Carroll get in here today? I think he was having some trouble getting up here. Dick, are you here yet? All right. Bob has just volunteered Bruce Schechter. Is Bruce Schechter here? Bruce, you mind helping us out? We need a solid defense lawyer. You want to help out? Oh. You know, I don't mean in your regular day job. I just mean you have to act as one for this particular purpose.
Bruce, you used to do it. You can do it again. He's converted to the light side. But.
And Bruce, I'm sorry I don't have introductory remarks, so I'll have to allow Bob to introduce you.
Do I get happy birthday?
Sure. Is it your birthday? And our 12 student jurors, if you're in the room, we need you to go ahead and fill our panel. Oh, there they are. So I will turn it over to Claire and get this podium out of the way.
We can do it. Okay. Hello, jurors. Good morning. All right, I hope you're all really excited because I think voir dire is the most exciting part of trial. I mean, I think that because I'm a jury consultant, but does anyone else agree? Is voir dire the most exciting part of trial?
And the hardest.
Yeah. It's also the scariest part of trial, probably, for most lawyers. Anyone scared of voir dire secretly or not so secretly? Okay. Spencer's raising his hand. Okay. So, in case anyone wanted to know who I am, Dick?
Oh, well, we do have Dick Carroll.
Come on in, Dick.
You gotta get tagged out though.
Yeah.
You gotta get tagged
Like any good defense lawyer, he learns his case during jury selection.
You gotta
So.
tag out Bruce out there.
Ben, do you want to introduce him or just get going? Good morning, Dick. Nice to see you. No worries. This is great. This is one of the best defense attorneys in the area, so.
Always on time. One of my mottos.
Hey, you just have to be there. You have to be second, right? So you don't have to be quite on time. Okay. So I am a jury consultant, and I was told by Ben that I should tell everybody what I do because I think there's maybe a little misconception about what jury consultants really do. Maybe Bull has showed you that we do more than we really do, or something different than what we really do. But so basically, when I come in to help lawyers during trial, I actually sit there at counsel table if a judge allows me, and I help write voir dire questions, and I actually sit there and advise on who to strike and who to keep. Okay, so I never ask the questions, even though sometimes I just really wish I could. But I would sit there and basically just keep a running total of who I like, who I don't like, who to ask questions to, and who to not. And basically, what I tell lawyers, and what I think most people subscribe to, is that voir dire is actually the art of deselecting your jury. Some lawyers like to win everything, and they like to only hear good things about their case, and they would be sadly mistaken to think that voir dire is successful that way, okay? So what I believe is the best way to do a voir dire is to ask jurors about the bad parts of your case. Okay, and you can ask stuff like, who here is a tort reformer, or who thinks that verdicts are too high, and that simply is not enough, because you will find that most jurors think verdicts are too high. Most jurors don't like lawsuits. Okay, and that's not getting into the nitty-gritty of what you want to hear, and if anything, it might just make you a little sad, right? Because we all want to have a bunch of advocates on our panel, but the likelihood is that you will not. So when I write voir dire, I try to find contentious points of the case or things where the defense makes a really valid point. I read the entire defense brief, and I try to pick and choose things like, oh, this will resonate with jurors. This, my lawyers have a blind spot to, and I ask questions like, who here thinks most plaintiffs exaggerate their injuries or exaggerate their damages? Okay, and I have lawyers who say, wait, why are you asking that? That puts me in a bad light. And I'm saying, because people think that. Okay, you'll be surprised by the number of jurors who raise their hand and say plaintiffs exaggerate their injuries. Okay, or who here has seen someone who you felt like was just milking the system, or got a doctor to write a note for whatever they wanted? Those are bad jurors for you. So I ask those questions. And I think you're doing yourself a grave disservice if you only ask questions that are positive. Lately, I seem to have a bunch of lawyers who have me they want to ask the question of, what are your passions in life? Okay? And this question is interesting to me because it's nice. The jurors like you for asking the question. It's also arduous and time-consuming and greatly unhelpful, okay? So if I were to go around to every one of these jurors and say, what is your passion? First of all, if I have 18 people, you're hearing 18 responses, and if you say 3 passions, that's 18 times 3. So that's kind of ad nauseum at that point, okay? But then second of all, you're not really hearing anything helpful. I've heard one helpful response. I heard a lady say, I like to teach reading to blind kids. And I thought, wow, you are an amazing person. I'd love to keep you. The defense struck her, okay? You never hear like, oh, I like to go target shooting and, polish my rifles. Okay, you don't hear that, okay? That would be great if I heard that, because I'd be like, ooh, I don't like you. But no, I just picked a jury in Santa Barbara last week. And if you're not familiar with Santa Barbara, it is a beautiful place, but it is not pro-plaintiff. It is very conservative in terms of lawsuits. And my lawyer started off asking the passion question, even though I told him not to. So we had jurors smiling at him, oh, I love to hike. I love to explore my intellectual curiosity. I love to read books, blah, blah, blah. Oh, these people are so nice. I had this retired Raytheon engineer. Oh, all I want to do is learn more about things. I have an incredibly curious mind. And I was like, this guy is so nice. What a nice engineer. And then I asked a question. I had my lawyer ask a question about, who here thinks if you've had a lot of bad things happen in your life, and another bad thing happens, you're like a totaled car. Too bad you're damaged. And that's supposed to have people respond with, oh no, of course not. Of course you're not like a totaled car. And so then you can say, oh, who here thinks they might be more fragile? But instead, this Raytheon engineer raised his hand and he said, wow, sounds like you have really bad karma. And I said, well, and the lawyer said, what does that mean? He said, sounds like you've made a lot of really bad choices in your life. And I thought, oh wow, this plaintiff who's been molested and suffered from serious problems with addiction, this guy thinks she's just made a lot of really bad choices in her life. He's awful. He's an awful juror. And if I had just stuck with, and then I said, well, wait, what about this kind of case where she ran into something in a supermarket and she's injured? And he's like, this is a choice? And he said, sounds like if you're not paying attention once, you're probably not paying attention a lot of times. And I was like, okay, thank you, sir, goodbye. But if I had just stuck with the passion question, I would have had no idea. No idea. And you would be surprised with how bad jurors can be, okay? I had one, and if you don't ask questions of your jurors, if you just let one sit there and you're thinking, he has nothing to say, he's smiling, he's fine, that you're also hurting your side. I had a case, a personal injury case, where the lawyer was doing a pretty good job. We did a mini opening, and he's asking questions, and there was a guy I remember, juror number 1 in the corner, and he was an IT professional, so that was like, ding, ding, ding for me. We need to ask him questions because I don't think he'll like damages, okay? So I said, just ask him about emotional distress damages. And so my lawyer just said, how do you feel about money for pain and suffering? The IT professional looked at him and said, I hate you, I hate your case. Okay? And that man had said absolutely nothing the entire voir dire. If we had not asked him something directly, not just a show of hands questions, but juror number 1, what do you think? He could have been on our panel. I hate you and I hate your case. Okay? So, and that brings me to my next point, which I think is very helpful for today's exercise. The power of the mini opening. Okay, this is like fairly revolutionary because in 2018, I believe it became part of California Code of Civil Procedure. So now, if one of the lawyers involved in a case asks for a mini opening, I believe pretty much the judge has to grant it. Is that correct, Bob? Yeah. So a mini opening is a unique opportunity for you to try to show the bad parts of your case. If you have a case that has really bad parts, that you're worried about juries being prejudiced toward it, okay? It's a great way for you to bring it out. I've done them quite a lot in the past few years. I think I even did one with Spencer right there. And I find them to be very helpful if you have stuff like alcohol intoxication, perhaps injury that does not appear on objective scans, like MRIs or x-rays. Those are very helpful because jurors have problems with these things. So if I were a plaintiff doing a mini opening, it's just 2 minutes. I don't go into how much my client is suffering, how every day she can't get out of bed. I don't do that because then you lose your good jurors. Because then your good jurors sit there and say, I'm sorry, I've already decided this case. I'm sympathetic to this woman. I can't be here. And that would be a complete failure of a mini opening. Instead, I harp on they were intoxicated. They ran into the road. Or this injury is based all on her subjective descriptions of her pain. There are no scans showing you otherwise. And then you say something like, and I'll tell you more about why I think this case should be in trial, or something like that. But you don't go into the sympathetic parts. You only go into the bad things. And you would be surprised at how much that helps you when you're trying to get jurors off for cause. I find it to be a very helpful, expedient way, and it improves your efficiency of your voir dire. And I know for all of us, we're all wishing we had more time for voir dire. So, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because today you will have the great opportunity to watch 2 amazing attorneys give you their own mini openings for this case. And I will read you the case summary right now. So this is a case that we will be voir diring on today. On September 24th, 2016, at 8:30 p.m., plaintiff, a 56-year-old homeless man in a wheelchair, entered a 5-lane road from the south side of the street, not in a crosswalk, at night. Defendant, a CR England employee, was driving a tractor trailer in the number 2 lane westbound. He couldn't see plaintiff and struck him at 24 miles per hour. Plaintiff was taken by emergency vehicle to UC Davis Medical Center. He suffered a severe traumatic brain injury with multiple traumatic fractures. Plaintiff was wearing dark clothing. Furthermore, plaintiff has been in and out of medical facilities dozens of times due to seizures, alcohol intoxication, and other auto versus pedestrian accidents. Plaintiff suffers from numerous degenerative conditions and diseases unrelated to the accident. Okay? So I think we're gonna go to the judge and then we'll launch into mini openings, but Your Honor, your turn.
Thank you, thank you. Before we begin, I just need to recognize someone who's very important to all of us. This place is so impressive in every way. Our deans have just been tremendous. And Dean Phillips is my personal hero. I just have to recognize him. I would not be here if it weren't for him. So thank you. And our current leadership is just spectacular. Look at this beautiful place, beautiful campus, beautiful law school. Okay, this is fascinating. We could spend a half a day on the whole idea of jury consultants. It's fascinating, and unfortunately, the time does not allow us to deeply discuss the issue. In court, I do allow them to sit at counsel table during jury selection, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I've even had in court several jury consultants sit in the back and actually on computers researching the jurors as they are questioned by the attorneys. Okay, this whole idea, we could talk so much about this and have so much to share, but we don't have much time to do that. We have really stars performing today. Dick Carroll has tried cases in my courtroom. There is none finer than him. He is such a spectacular lawyer, and it's always a delight to have him in the courtroom. Just a professional in every way. And one of my most memorable cases, and most tragic, is one that I presided over, which Dick won almost an impossible victory. A case that is just so fresh in my mind. And then look what we have to our right, these plaintiffs. These are stars in the plaintiff's world today. Their preparation is legend. And our system depends on advocacy. So it means nothing unless you have advocates. These are the very, very best advocates. Just so proud of them, because in court, our purpose is to provide fair and impartial trials, and the system cannot work unless the attorneys who present the cases are up to the task. And these folks are up to the task on steroids. Now, many opening statements, so crucial. In my courtroom, I really encourage it for two reasons. Number one, it breaks the ice. And I usually do it about the seventh juror. So I will go, now my goal in voir dire is to put the jury panel in the same frame of mind that I must be. You know, free of bias, recognition that the case is about the participants, not about us. I go through all the details. I spend a lot of time with our juries, and I put a lot of confidence in them, and then I let them do their magic. So that reason. And the attorneys, of course, it's very nerve-wracking to be a trial lawyer, but all your nerves settle down as soon as you open your mouth. So they're sitting there listening to me, about ready to go crazy. And then about the seventh, and every judge does it different. About the seventh panel member, I ask them to get up and feel free to turn their backs on me because I want them to talk to everyone. And please to go ahead and address the jury in the mini opening statement. And I encourage it. I really want them to do it. I think it's crucial. Before they do it, however, in the pretrial conference, which is absolutely crucial, we go through number of challenges, method of selection, jury. We go through all the tech motions and limine. We go through all the technical stuff. So everything's been taken care of technically before they actually have the panel come in. I share a jury list, so they get the chronological list, they get the information list. We give all that to the attorneys. So when the attorneys are ready to question the jury, I want them to be totally relaxed, and I want them to focus totally on their case. This is all in the interest of justice. You get a bad trial, it's a failure. Nobody wants a bad trial. So, with regard to these mini opening statements, I allow them, if they want, to use exhibits. So if they both agree to show something, if they want to show a medical picture, if they want to show a diagram, if they want to do those things, I let them do it. They have to agree. The default position is no, of course. But if they want to do it, I allow them to do it. Now, I also discuss with them the depth of their opening statement, because sometimes a plaintiff will get up and give a very neutral statement. Nice to see you. I'm here. I'm representing my client. I'm very proud. Judge has already introduced me. Really nice to be here. Okay, that's the way many opening statements started a few years ago. Okay, now what happened though is the plaintiff would do that, and then the defense would get up and they'd start talking about the case and facts. So on occasion, I would have to go back and give the plaintiff another opportunity because the defense brought up facts. So now we just take the bull by the horns. You want to talk about the case? You're both going to talk about the case. And I'm going to let you do it. Guess why? It's your case. So if that's something they want to do, and they're doing it more and more. In all my recent trials, they want to do it. They want to talk a little bit about the facts. In detail, no. Argument, no. Very bland. But it really does serve to let the jury know a little bit about what's going on with the case. I think the point that counsel has brought up, the jury consultant counsel brought up, is so very important. The trouble is this: you have to be on your best game. You have to dress nice, talk nice, have good body language, be articulate, address your audience in an appropriate way. You have to be on your game right now. Right now, you've got to be on your game. So it's really, really helpful. Okay, so someday I'll come back to Pepperdine and maybe talk to trial practice and go over all the details about how important all these things are, and the certificate of compliance, the issues compliance, and all those other things that are so important and so technical. But we have stars here, and I think we need to get on with it. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. Let me just mention one other thing before we do that. Okay, jury selection. Everyone, by and large, uses the six-pack method now. So normally, if we were going to pick a jury, we'd have another person here. There are two types of questions. They're general and specific questions. I explain all that to the jury. When we replace on a six-pack method, we thank and excuse one. We bring up number 13. We empty the row. We fill up 13. First questions we ask, after they answer the written questions, did you listen carefully to all the questions that were answered so far by myself and the attorneys? Yes. Would your answers to the general questions, like can you be fair? Will you give both sides a fair opportunity to present their evidence and not prejudge the case? Did you listen to the general questions? Yes, I did, Judge. Do you need to elaborate on any specific questions? Remember, general are the general. Specific are, for example, in this case, I asked you previously about if you or anyone in your family had a disability or ever used a wheelchair. Okay, that would be a specific. So I'd say, with regard to the specific questions, do you have anything to elaborate? Yes, my brother was in a wheelchair for 6 months after a back surgery. All right, so that would be specific, general. Okay, I've said enough. I have so much more to share. I just don't have time to do it. So I will turn it back over to counsel. Counsel, you may address the panel.
Thank you, Your Honor. And as you know, my name is Bob Simon. We introduced before. I'm trying this case with Tom Fair, and we have the corporate defense trucking lawyer over here. And we're trying this case because we have a stark disagreement on responsibility and how to value somebody's injuries and these things. But I want to ask you, we need brutal honesty here, and I need to know how you feel about certain things to get a fair jury for my client and also for the trucking lawyer, corporate lawyer over here, his case too. So I need to you're going to hear some things from this lawyer and his experts and his witnesses, and there'll be a lot of witnesses, and you'll hear some other things, but I need to know how you feel about certain issues in this case to see if we can get a fair trial, okay? So I have a list here of the points that this gentleman wants to make. So you heard my client, he's wearing dark clothes and a dark wheelchair, and it's dark outside, and he's crossing outside a crosswalk. He's a homeless man. He's been in prior accidents where he's been hit by cars. He was in a wheelchair because he was hit by a car and broke his hip before this. They may say that he might be suicidal. I need to know how you feel about that. And also, they'll take the position, and you might hear that he was going to die within 2 to 4 years without getting hit by this truck at 25 miles an hour. And I need to know how you feel about those positions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, I'm going to have my back to most of you. My apologies. So, I wish I had a Darth Vader outfit. I'd put it on right now because I am the corporate lawyer for the corporation. My client is a guy by the name of Bill Gutierrez. He's the guy driving the truck. Drives a truck for a living. Drives 200,000 miles a year. You drive somewhere between 8 and 20 if you drive a lot. In 1 year of your driving that, he's already done that in a month. He's driving a tractor trailer. This accident took place at 24 miles an hour with no skid marks. It's a 5-lane road, and the plaintiff came off the sidewalk on the driver's side of the car, on the other side, through 3 lanes, and then into my driver's lane from his left. Never saw him. Wearing black clothes, dark, not at a crosswalk, in the middle of the night. There will be evidence of intoxication and suicidal ideation. I don't care about that, and my client doesn't care about that. And that's not what he lies in bed looking at the ceiling thinking about every night when he thinks about this gentleman's injuries. He thinks about, should I have seen him and could I have avoided it? And that's really what the case comes down to. And that's what you're going to be hearing from me. I'm not going to besmirch him or call him a drunk or he's done this before. I don't care. I don't think drunk people should get hit either. So I look forward to proving the case. Thanks.
Counsel, you may deliver your mini opening statement to this fine panel.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it. We already have many openings, so what I'm going to do is, if it's okay with you, I'm going to just go ahead and question the panel. Is that all right?
Oh, is that what those were?
Did you hear what he just referred to you? He didn't even know you guys were part of the panel.
Where was the emotion? Where was the well-dressed gentleperson?
Is it all right if I proceed, Your Honor?
You may proceed. You may question this panel.
So, wow, you all just heard statement of the case from both these gentlemen. And as you heard, my name's Tom Fair. I also represent Kenny in this case, and Kenny was homeless when this happened. You heard that. And he was suffering from alcoholism. And he was also in a wheelchair at the time this happened. He was in the wheelchair because it's happened to him before. And we're asking for a lot of money for him. 56-year-old man. $100 million. It's a lot of money. And I guess, as His Honor said just a moment ago, he said, you know, we're looking for folks that can be fair. And I take it, you think, do each and every one of you think that you're fair? Shake, you know. My last name's Fair. Sometimes I don't know, though, if I can be. You know? There are things that I love that are close to me. I mean, I got my dog, I got cufflinks. My wife got this for me for Christmas, and my dog's on it. I love him. He's our baby right now. And if you put that dog, my dog Buddy, next to any dog, no matter what, my
Your
dog
Honor,
wins.
Can I just object that we're wandering a little far into the biography of Mr. Fair.
Sustained.
He didn't tell you his middle name is Un.
So what I'd like to know from each and every one of you is, we have a man that I just described to you, and we're trying to hold them accountable because their driver never saw Kenny. How do you feel about us bringing a lawsuit asking for money damages for a man like Kenny? How do you feel about that, ma'am? You think that's fair? Can you tell me why you feel that's fair?
Well, because he was wronged, and I believe that he was wronged. He was hit, and I think that it is fair that he is compensated.
You ever know anyone that's had a similar experience to Kenny?
No.
No. Ever know anyone that's been hit as a pedestrian by anybody?
I don't believe I do.
What about, anybody that's ever gone through a tough time? Maybe it was alcoholism, or maybe they were addicted to something else. Sometimes being a lawyer, you can get addicted to that. We work so hard. You know anybody like that?
Yes.
Yeah? Do you mind sharing?
Family history, so cousin, uncle, grandparents, lots of people in my family. Few friends who have been through it, so I know a good few people.
Me too. Thank you for having the courage to share that with us. I really appreciate that.
Of course.
Anybody else like us here on this panel have had something like that in their family? Someone that's gone through a tough time? Maybe it wasn't alcoholism, but maybe something else? Anybody, and if you don't feel comfortable sharing, I know this is an open forum here. So these are things that are deep and can be painful. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's okay. But if I could just have a show of hands of anybody that like us two have had close people, friends or family that have had those kind of problems before. Just run, and it's okay. It's okay to be courageous here and to be vulnerable, okay? Just with a show of hands. Thank you. Thank you so much. Would anybody care to just share a little bit of that experience? Yes, sir. Thank you.
When the 2008 housing bubble collapsed, my uncle fell victim to the homeless epidemic that was sweeping America. He couldn't afford housing, medicine. He turned to the bottle as well. But he turned his life around because he was able to get some cash influx, and he's living a better life now.
How does that make you feel, knowing that happened, where he is now from where he was before?
It makes me feel hopeful that we have a system that allows people to bounce back on their feet after they've lost their homes.
First of all, thank you for being open with us about that. How would you feel if someone took, this was your uncle, right?
Yes, sir.
How would you feel if someone took his opportunity away to have redemption?
Well, I don't know how I would feel, but I would definitely want to know why.
But I suppose, what if someone cut his life short when he was going through that tough time and he never had an opportunity to fight back, to bounce back, to pull his life back together? How would you feel about that?
Probably not too good. Not too good.
Maybe let me ask a different question. Is there value in a human being's ability to redeem themselves?
Absolutely.
Would you say it's maybe one of the most important qualities we have as human beings, that when we make mistakes, when we do something wrong, that we can make up for them, that we could fight through adversity? And isn't that what we preach to our children, to ourselves, the self-help books, all of the different things that we have in society to help us, to support us, the different programs for people that are sick, ill, homeless, whatever it is? Isn't that what we value in the society, sir?
Yes, sir.
Might be one of the most important things, right?
It's the American dream.
You gonna object? Come on now. Sorry, it was a teaching moment there. I was going deep. And I apologize, I didn't mean to break character, but you usually catch an objection for that. If a defense, but what had happened is everybody's watching. You see, what would happen is we were being very real. There's no baloney here. This is how I feel about Kenny, too. I've had low points in my life. Dean Gash knows I've had low points in my life. And if I didn't have the opportunity to fight, to be a better human being, to be the lawyer I am today, if I was judged 7 years ago or 8 years ago, you may not have looked at me the way that you look at me today. And I'm so lucky I had the opportunity to fight. Has anybody else had an experience like that? Where you've been down? Yes, sir. I see a couple hands, and I'll get to you. Can we start with you?
Yes, prior to my attendance at law school and growing up, I was a high school dropout living in a tent for a portion of my life. I know about being down and out.
When you were in that position, how did you feel? You know, I mean, what was going through your mind when everything was tough like that?
Wasn't easy.
Wasn't easy. And then how long ago was that?
10 years.
10 years. How you doing now?
Fantastic.
That's good to hear. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Sir, I saw your hand over there.
Well, not quite to that extent, but
That's okay. There's no one's judging here. You know, so it's all right.
I struggled initially with college and ended up dropping out of the school that I went to. Came home and didn't really have much motivation, struggled to work, struggled to go to school. Spent a couple of years of my life trying to kind of pick up the pieces and figure out what in the world I was going to do. Turned to alcohol quite a bit, struggled with that. Then kind of found a new direction, new motivation. Got myself through school, paid my own way, worked my way through, and found my way into law school.
You know, thank you for sharing that with us. You know, I've had similar things, and do you think maybe, I mean, you know, why do you think you turned to alcohol, I suppose, is the question.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
I think more than anything, it was an opportunity to escape. You know, when you're drinking alcohol, there's no expectation of responsibility, especially as a young kid where you think you're invincible. alcohol was an opportunity to feel lively or feel happy again, because I didn't have to think about all the responsibilities and things I was shirking.
Yeah, and it's also not easy when, you know, you watch a Super Bowl, for example, and half the commercials they're pumping alcohol commercials to you, right? It's an easy thing. It's not all you, right? But here, let me ask this, just to wrap it up. And I appreciate I didn't get to all of you at this short time, but for all of you that have shared, just because somebody is or has gone through the things that Kenny has gone through or similar to that, does that make them any less valuable than someone that hasn't? And y'all promised me to evaluate this case fairly. I see them all nodding. Thank you very much, folks. I really appreciate you being courageous and open with me today. I think we're going to have a good trial, okay? I'll take the whole panel, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Carroll, you may address the
So
panel.
I guess the equation here is because this poor guy is down and out and he gets hit by a truck, he deserves $100 million. Everybody want to draw that conclusion now? We skip the trial. Jack, I'm going to call you number 12, okay? Because it starts with 1 and goes to 6 to 12. All right. Miss 12. It seemed to me when I listened to your responses that you thought, hey, well, yeah, this guy deserves money, this poor guy. I mean, he was crossing the street, he got hit by a truck. Have you ever been falsely accused of anything?
I don't think so.
Do you think that every time somebody gets hurt, a homeless, poor, Kenny, that means it's somebody's fault? Has to be somebody's fault. Somebody's got to pay an unbelievable amount of money for that, right?
Not necessarily, no.
I guess what I'm kind of inquiring into, number 6, I'm going to pick on you for a second here, is this concept that I'm not getting a fair trial. It's because we feel so sorry for. All I heard during that jury selection was what a poor guy this guy is. I'm not here to argue about that. Not what the case is about as far as I'm concerned. Joe Gutierrez is a professional truck driver. He's driving his truck at 24 miles an hour in the pitch dark. He's not speeding. He does this every day and every night, works for a living, and takes that money home to his kids. Everybody okay with giving him a fair shake here? Listening to what happened, why it happened, how quickly it happened. No skid marks. Everybody okay with that? Is there any reason why, and I go second here. Any of you from a big family? Got a bunch of kids in a family? When you guys were growing up, you had a brother or sister run into your parents and tell them what a rotten SOB you were for doing something, hitting them with something, or before justice started getting doled out in your household, you want to tell your side of the story. Hey, that's not what happened. She actually threw some scissors at me, or whatever. I want you to think whether or not you can listen to the evidence in this case, hear what the people say from the witness stand, look at the pieces of paper, look at the police report, look at the diagrams of the scene, and listen to what my client has to say before you start making your mind up. Can everybody do that? Am I asking anything unfair or un-American or any of that type of stuff? Mr. Fair stood up here and said, everybody think that, you know, poor guys deserve a break in the world. When you're down and out, you deserve a break. Okay, great, that's fine. I'm not here to argue about drunkenness or suicide. I'm not here to argue about anything. Everybody okay with just looking at the facts and using your common sense to get to the bottom of what happened here? Middle of the street, pitch dark. Probably not a good idea to cross the street. Would you agree, Mrs. 12?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the circumstances.
Well, you really have to get to the other side. So I think I'll try to beat this tractor trailer, those kind of circumstances. Pitch dark, not a crosswalk. There's going to be some levity. We're going to laugh a couple of times in here, and I'm not trying to make it light, okay? I get it. This gentleman's been hurt and hurt bad. You get hit by a truck at 24 miles an hour, and you don't come out of that without a change. I get that part. But what I'm kind of worried about is that sympathy is going to take over. You feel sorry for this poor guy and give $100 million. I almost collapsed when I heard that number. But I had a nightmare last night, and the nightmare was this. My wife said, what's the matter? In a cold sweat. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, You're not going to believe this. I just had a dream that I was trying to pick a jury from 12 millennials. I go, holy shit. But I'm back. It's a little late, but I am here. So the bottom line, and I kind of need a commitment from you that you can be fair. You can listen to the evidence in this case under these circumstances. I'm not going to try to be your friend. We've got strict instructions from the judge. I can't say hi to you in the hallway or talk about the Rams' chances of winning the Super Bowl or anything. I'm not even going to hold the door for you. If I see you, I'm going to look the other way. And I told my client to do the same thing. This guy's been driving trucks for 24 years. All he wants is a fair shake. Can you give it to him, number two? Did you figure out you were two when I did the counting thing? Okay. You can give him a fair shake, listen to what he has to say that night, what took place. 3? You okay with that concept? 4? All right, I get it. Everybody was down and out at some point in life. I'm not here because it's not relevant to this case to tell you my client's entire story. You're going to hear all about Kenny, and they love to call him by his first name and personalize him and call me the robot on the other side that represents some company. Really, all I care about is what you think about Mr. Gutierrez and did he do the right thing on that night at that time. Everybody's okay with that concept, right? The sympathy factor. If you are a red-blooded American, you are going to feel sorry for this person. You're going to feel sorry for this guy. He's a nice guy. He's got problems. I get it. But when you relive the events of the case in your mind, can you listen to the evidence and use your common sense of what most likely happened before you start doling out fault or think somehow this is somebody's fault and because it's a big company, they should pay money? You okay with that concept, Mr. 11? I represent a corporation, but really I represent a man. And I'm wondering, he mentioned the Super Bowl. Everybody watch sports at some point or another? When you turn the TV on and you know nothing about the two teams, you know nothing about them, who do you root for? The underdog, right? Don't you always root for the underdog? The guy losing. You just want him to come back. You want to see a good game. You kind of root for the underdog. And I'm not that. I represent a company, and he's going to say it 400 times. You're going to get nauseous. You're going to hear so many corporate lawyer references over the course of this case. Can you be fair? That's the whole ball of wax here. That's all we're talking about is a level playing field to make sure that before we start, you haven't already kind of made up your mind. It's not a popularity contest. It's not about whether you like me or like them or like Kenny. It's a question of what happened in September and whose fault, if anybody's fault. Can you believe, Ms. 12, that you can have an accident, you can have an injury, and have it be nobody's fault? Yeah. Can you be fair as we start off here, or have you already kind of moved your dial slightly in one direction versus the other? Is everybody here on the 50-yard line? Just a level playing field for both sides? Can you all promise, Ms. 5, to give my client a fair shake and listen to all the evidence in this case?
2 minutes.
Can you set sympathy aside, it's hard to do, and make your decision about what happened on the facts, objectively, using your brain, your common sense, and your experience? Can you do that? You know, everybody has had their experience. It's kind of what makes the civil system work. It's you bring in your own personal experiences into this courtroom, and you listen to the evidence, and everybody has different experiences and hears things slightly different ways. And all I'm asking, and I think that's why the collective wisdom of a jury works, is because you get to talk about it, you get to hear about it, you get to compare your notes and your reactions to what you heard in this case, and come up with a joint decision and participate in that process. Is everybody looking forward to that? Is there anybody here who thinks, oh, I'd really rather not be here? I mean, I'm sure when you got your little notice for the jury service in the mail, that probably wasn't the most pleasant of moments, but we're going to spend a couple of weeks, and it's our jobs to put before you every single fact you need to get to the bottom of this case. And all we're asking is that you sit here and listen to it. Make a fair decision. Are we okay with all of you? Very well then. I reserve for cause, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to make jokes or these types of things. I have one goal, and it's just to find out if you're a good juror for this case for both sides. And I'm actually going to start with the hot mic over there, juror number 6. We heard some stuff, and if there's no evidence in this trial that my client was intoxicated at the time of this crash, but you hear, he's an alcoholic, he's in and out of the emergency room for very high levels of intoxication, I need to know in your heart of hearts, are you already thinking, well, he was probably drunk that day? I want to know how you feel about that.
I wouldn't necessarily assume that he was drunk that day, but if he's been to the hospital multiple times, it's something that's in the back of my mind.
All right, so, not hearing any evidence right now, are you already kind of thinking, he's an alcoholic and it might have played a role in this case? Already thinking that even though there's no evidence, and I just need to know how you feel about it.
Well, I think I would go based on the evidence.
All right, and you heard that my client was homeless at the time, and we've heard some things about suicide. I mean, are you thinking right now, without hearing evidence, he must have just jumped out in front of that car and he was trying to end it all? How do you feel about that?
I feel conflicted, honestly. I was the victim of an assault many years ago, and it was actually a homeless person who just came up behind me and clocked me while I was at a gas station. And that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable about certain things in this case, for sure.
Yeah, so you might be a good juror for like a business dispute or a car accident not involving a homeless person. And I got to ask you, because we want a fair jury, we do. We don't want to do this again, Can you be fair to my client? But I want your brutal honesty. Do you think in your heart of hearts, given your background, that you might have a little bit of a problem and I might be starting a little bit behind it? And it's okay if the answer is yes.
I might. Just internally, I can't tell you exactly how that would play out with the evidence,
But going what you've gone through, I mean, are you thinking in your heart of hearts, I got to prove a little bit more than 51% for you because of what you went through, and it's okay if the answer is yes?
It's entirely possible, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else feel the same way that juror number 6? And thank you for discussing that. There's something someone famous told me once, is you as a juror, if you talk, you got a chance to walk. We can get you out of here, maybe. But if you stay quiet and you hold these things in, you might be on this jury. So I want to know how you feel. So let's pass it to juror number 5. Can you tell me, we heard some from the gentleman next to you. How do you feel about that stuff? Or am I starting behind?
No, I think I would say you're starting in a neutral place with me. I don't have any ideas. I know homeless people have very diverse backgrounds, and there are a lot of reasons why somebody might be homeless. I wouldn't assume anything.
Yeah, might be a veteran. We don't know. We're not going to talk about any of that, okay? So Mr. Fair brought up that we're going to ask you to compensate this man for $100 million. And that's a lot of money. Medical bills, pain and suffering. And we got to prove it to you more likely true than not true, 51%. So I have to ask you, you sit here today not hearing the evidence. Are you already thinking we're starting behind because that's just too much money? And I need to know how you feel about that.
No, I just don't know any of the facts, so I really couldn't say either way.
Perfect. Could you hand it to juror number 4, please? Sir, I'm going to ask you the same question I just asked juror number 5. How do you feel about that?
It's very circumstantial, and I would have to hear more about each party's stories and what they're even capable of affording.
All right, so one of the things that the corporate trucking lawyer brought up is we can't talk about sympathy. And one thing you cannot consider is, I feel sorry for the defense because we don't know where the money's coming from. We don't know if other things are paying. We don't know those things. Are you okay judging the case just on the injuries to this man and not taking sympathy into the account for what the defendant may be able to pay? Can you do that?
Absolutely.
All right. Does anybody have a problem if they have a family business or they have a trucker in there? Anybody have any? My dad was a trucker for 35 years. Anybody have any trucking people? Sure. And juror number 2. Tell me your experience with trucking.
Well, a lot of my cousins have trucking companies.
So knowing that, and we have a truck driver here, do you know certain extra rules that truck drivers have to follow when they're out there on the road?
Yeah, there's a certain amount of hours they're allowed to drive in a day, and they're supposed to take a certain amount of breaks so that they're not driving it if they're tired or exhausted.
And if there's evidence in this trial that the truck driver, he followed a lot of rules, are you going to be like, you know what, I have a family of truck drivers, they're doing the best you can. Are you already siding with the truck drivers given what your family's done? And It's okay, whatever your answer.
I might be slightly biased towards the trucking company.
All right, and it's okay if this is true, but are you already thinking, have you heard stories from your family about the crazy motorists out there pulling in front of them, hitting the brakes, that kind of stuff, and all this, when they're getting blamed for stuff?
I mean, there are circumstances where people try to force an accident.
So, I just need to know, as you sit here right now, hearing these facts about generally what we know, are you already slightly leaning for the trucking company? And it's okay if the answer is yes.
I might be 51% to them, but I need to hear the facts of what happened. If the trucker didn't log his hours and he was trying to work longer and he was exhausted, I don't know.
All right. Do you agree conceptually that truck drivers should have a higher standard than regular drivers out on the road?
Yes.
All right. And I want to hear from juror number 11 very quickly. Now, sir, I heard you shaking your head with some of the truck answers, right? And I want to know, what were your feelings when you were hearing me ask juror number 2 some questions?
Just that they are held to a higher standard because they are on the road longer. And then I do have a really close friend who he does truck driving for a living, and he tells me a lot of stories of what goes on.
And as you sit here right now, are you already kind of siding with the trucking company, knowing what you know with your friend and the stories that you hear?
No, not at all. In fact, me and my friend, we actually are part of the homeless ministry at our church, and so we know a lot of homeless, and some of them are in fact handicapped.
Will you step to that, juror?
I'll step to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Perfect.
So hand it to juror number 10 here. So we've talked a little about stuff right now, and we haven't heard a lot from you. So I just need to know, is there anything you want to tell me that's saying, hey, I might not be a good juror for you, or I might be good? Just tell me what you're thinking right now.
Yeah, thank you. My mom is an executive at a company that manufactures trucks, but I don't know any truck drivers. So from that standpoint, I don't know any homeless people. I have been very fortunate for most of my life, so I haven't really been very down and out. To be honest, I feel very impartial to everything.
Well, let me
going
ask you
on.
this. Can you, are you comfortable if this jury, you guys sit together and you're like, you know what, this man deserves to be compensated $100 million. If you come to that decision, are you going to think, after everybody deliberates, that's just too much money for a homeless alcoholic man, and we don't know what he's going to do with it?
I have no idea if that's a reasonable amount of money. It sounds like a lot, but I feel like y'all could make a case.
All right, hand it to juror number 9. So if I ask you for 50 later, will you give me 50? So I have to ask you, same question. Are you already thinking that I feel uncomfortable giving that kind of money for what we know about Kenny Lewis right now?
Not because of him, but the number did kind of seem a lot when I first heard it.
All right. Do you think that there should be a limit on how much somebody's able to be compensated for when they have injuries?
Not a hard limit, but $100 million just seemed like first time hearing it, it seemed like a lot.
Yeah. If without hearing anything at the case, is there a number in your mind where you're like, you know what, I can never give above that? And it could be $1 million, could be $5, don't know. Just for pain and suffering, not medical bills, just for somebody's emotional distress. Is there a limit?
Not a hard limit, but 100 just shocked me. So maybe even half of that I think would have been easier to swallow.
All right.
2 minutes.
So it worked, by the way. All right. Is there anything else that you heard as we discussed with the rest of these jurors that causes you any pause for concern and makes you think you might be better for a different case? You can go back to the jury room and they say, you know what, we'll send you somewhere else. Okay.
Well, my family we have our own businesses, and my parents have been sued multiple times for people making claims against them. So I've kind of been my family's been in similar situations where people have gotten either injured at events they've produced or just happens chance. So that might influence me.
Hearing what you've heard already, limited, are you already thinking that this man in the wheelchair was trying to have a fraudulent claim by jumping out in front of the truck? I don't care what your answer is.
No. Not maybe.
All right. So it's okay because that's your background. We all have different backgrounds. So as you sit, you agree you're probably not a good juror for me.
Yes.
Would you agree that if you were my client and you were the person I was asking questions of, you say, we don't want that person?
I would pass on me for sure.
Thank you. Class, everyone's not heard from you. We have very limited time. I got one more minute. Can you tell me anything that about you that might be like, you know what, we don't want you on the jury?
Not about myself. Maybe the $100 million number, like her, it kind of threw me off, but I'd have to see more about the facts to see if that's warranted here.
Do you think that I have to prove my case more, or prove that this truck driver was almost criminally behavior to get that kind of money? Or do you think the 51% is okay?
No, I think it just depends on his injuries.
Okay, but you can listen to the evidence.
Yeah.
That's all we ask for. My last question to you: if I do not prove my case, and you think my client did it all, my case sucks, even though you feel sympathy for him, can you look him in the eyes and give him 0?
Yeah.
Can everybody make that commitment that if they don't like my case and I didn't prove it, that they'll give me 0? Can everybody promise me that? Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Oh, and I do have for a cause, but as we know, the evidence goes that it starts with the defense.
But in a real jury selection, Dick would then go up and probably rehab a couple of jurors. You know, can you follow the law? You know, can you view the evidence? And then probably a couple of them would say yes. So I have to say, I've watched a lot of jury selections, and if the defense attorney is as likable as Dick is, the plaintiffs are nervous. Very, very nervous. And laughing during voir dire is his ultimate goal, right? Because then they're not sympathetic anymore. They're not feeling, Tom got them feeling sad. Dick got them laughing, right? So that's dangerous from a plaintiff attorney's point of view. However, from my perspective, I would have asked, I know this is very limited time, I would have asked more. Like, for example, with this young lady right here, I would have said, has anyone here seen a company get unfairly sued? She would have raised her hand and cited her family members right away. Has anyone here been unfairly blamed in a car accident? Those people are usually bad for plaintiffs who've been hit. I would have also asked, does anyone here think that if you're walking across the street and you're not in a crosswalk, that you're 100% responsible for what's happened to you? This is not your standard working class, run-of-the-mill jury. People say that all the time. And by the way, Dick, to you, you said you hate millennials. Okay, I often work on the plaintiffs.
I did not say that.
Okay, because I was going to say, I often work on the plaintiff side. I don't like millennials either. I don't think anyone truly is comfortable with them. But I think I technically am still a millennial, so you're allowed to talk about what you are, right? Okay. So, but my rule of thumb usually is if I have a millennial I don't like, I wait and let the defense strike them first, because they almost always do. Okay. So, but no, I just had a millennial yesterday in a focus group in a CRPS case say, adapt. Get over it and adapt. Okay? a dude, adapt or die is what he told the jury. Okay? So he wanted to give $10 in an admitted liability life care plan. Okay? Admitted liability, $10 to this lady who would never be able to work again. Okay? So there are some millennials who were very, very, very bad plaintiff jurors. But I'll let you strike him. You can strike him, that's fine. I'll take it, because, he had a hood on. Maybe you'd think he was anti-corporation, maybe. But he's, I think, anti-everything, right? Yeah, okay. But usually if they're anti-everything, they're not sympathetic to your case, right? True. So I think I would have asked, I think that Tom did a great, great, great job of being likable. But I felt like I need to hear more about what people don't like. So I would have asked, and this is a very limited voir dire, but just for the teaching moment, I would have had to ask more negative questions. For example, juror number 4 raised his eyebrows and kind of shook his head during the mini opening at $100 million. So I would have wanted to know more about how he felt about that. Just that kind of thing. But that's, limited time. So I just wanted to see, do you have anything else you guys want to say? Bob, Tom, Judge?
I do. Okay, so real quick, because we just have a few minutes. Okay, so most people in an audience, when they see this type of talent exhibited, they ask, how can I do it? What do I have to do to look like these three gentlemen? And that really is why you're here. So let me just suggest a couple of ways. Okay, first, you really have to know your case. You have to do your homework, and you have to pick your strongest points and press your strongest points. What you want to develop is a level of confidence. And confidence starts with knowing what you're doing. And that means you have to have a total command of the case. So when you sign someone up, you pull out the jury instructions, you order investigation, you do what you need with regard to a consultant, you spend the money, you hire good experts. And so you know your case, you pick the winning portions of your case, but you know the other side just as well. So that gives you confidence, right? Then you develop your presentation skills. The first thing you want to do is you want to be very presentable. Okay, so you want to dress nice. You also want to learn how to project your voice so that when you speak clearly. You also do want to be likable. If you feel like you're inherently not likable, you can change. You can improve yourself. So you're going to confront, on the panel, you're going to confront a lot of different kind of personalities. But you have to be true to yourself always. So you have to analyze your strengths and your weaknesses. And when you do all these things, what the jury consultant really meant when she addressed Carroll and the other two is, you want to be credible. Are you part of the evidence? No. But your credibility, everything you do, your body language, is totally observed by that panel. And they're taking everything into consideration. And you're just such a huge part of it. So the point is, can you do this? Answer is absolutely yes. No one is born a star. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes an analysis of one's strengths and weaknesses, and then it takes the dedication to shore up the strengths and correct any weaknesses. These are great presentations. It's hard to do what they just did, especially with the level of enthusiasm at this hour in the morning after they worked hard all week. And I really want to compliment them on just a wonderful performance. And it's just a delight to have attorneys like this in court. It's just a real delight. Did you want to entertain some questions while we have a couple minutes?
Yeah, sure. If anybody has any questions, we'd be more than happy to take them.
I have a question. How much did that invisible tie cost you?
This is a Western tie, Southwestern tie. Mike has his hand up right there.
Yeah, I just like to know for the future, where do I get a jury panel like that for my next But on a serious note, is that, Judge, would that be enough to get somebody off if they said, I'm not sure, I don't know if I would be fair, they're wishy-washy on that. Would that suffice, or how much more you need to push it to get them for cause?
Well, they had very little time to address it, but they'd probe because the big battle always was what's more important, opening statement or jury selection? And now it's mini opening statement, and of course, jury selection. Jury selection is really at the heart, and the theories are so different. Like one theory is you got to get that right juror. You just got to get one lead juror, and so everybody focuses on a lead juror and the rest will follow. And others feel totally different, that they really have to have a fair shot by getting a jury panel that's informed fairly. In other words, the jury knows what they're into. No surprises. You put the cards on the table, you get their commitment, and you hold them to their commitment. When I see, you can't ask them to promise anything. I mean commitment through examination, both by the judge's participation and with adequate adversarial skills. So it's that total vetting of the jury. Okay, time juries. Okay, I let the attorneys try their case. Some like time juries. So you have to be mindful. You have to go with the flow. If you're going to get a time jury, you have to be real careful with the time that you allot and be careful with regard to your questions. But you have to also speak to the point. That's why I say you have to know your case. You have to know what's important. It really starts there. That level of confidence can only be exhibited if you really know what your case is.
And Your Honor, if I made a cause challenge for juror number 6 and juror number 9, how would you rule?
You know, there would have to be more, but it's not. Once in a while, I will do this. We do our cause challenges on the side. And if there's any doubt or if there is some confusion, I will let them ask some additional questions. And I also may ask an additional question. So in my courtroom, we do a lot of different things. Like I allow jury questions. Okay, we do 3 days a week. The reason we do 3 days a week is because everyone's just about brain dead after the third day. It is true, it's exhausting. The jury's exhausted, the attorneys are exhausted. Also, it has a true effect upon the jury pool. If you have 5 days trial, 4 days trial, you're gonna get a jury pool that is really not a total mix. And we have tremendous diversity in our juries, even in Orange County.
Judge, 2 quick questions. These were abbreviated mini opening statements. Generally, how long do you like to see them? Number 1. Number 2, as a criminal practitioner, I've never seen a mini opening in a criminal case. Have you seen that?
Yeah, nor will
Is that
you
common?
You're not gonna see jury questions. I even allow the alternates to go in the jury room and just watch deliberations if the attorneys agree. So civil is so different. In criminal, just about everything gets appealed, and their charge is different. They can't stipulate their rights, but in civil you can stipulate anything, and you get attorneys that are sharp. They can stipulate. It's their case, their client, their blood, sweat, and tears. So I let them try their case.
Judge, I'm going to jump in because we are at our hard break, but I just want to say thank you. There was this sort of just played out this way, and I just want to point out something that just makes a lot of us swell with pride. You certainly don't have to be Pepperdine to come here and speak at this, but it just happened to be a 2010, a 2005, a 1984, and a 1974 graduate of this law school, and they were picked because they're tremendous people in the community, but they just happen to be part of this Pepperdine community. So just please give them all a round of applause, and I just want to thank them for being here. Before we go on break, just a point of clarification for millennials. Darth Vader was this guy in a movie in 1977. We actually would call him Thanos nowadays. Anyways, we will see you in 10 minutes. Thank you again.